All right, picture this. You've just finished that last grueling set. You drop the weights, you're breathing hard, maybe a little shaky, but you feel awesome. You might think, okay, work's done. But here's the thing. In a way, the most important part of building muscle is just getting started. So let's pull back the curtain and look at the incredible biological journey that turns that final rep into real strength and size. What is actually going on inside your body in the hours and days after you walk out of the gym? We have all been there. You know that feeling, a day or two after a brutal leg day, where just the thought of stairs feels like a personal attack. We call it delayed onset muscle soreness, or DOMS, and for years, we've kind of worn it like a badge of honor, right? The thinking goes, if it hurts, it must be working. But is that deep ache really a reliable sign that you're growing? Well, the answer isn't a simple yes or no. It's a bit more complicated, and it all kicks off with the process of, believe it or not, intentional damage. I know it sounds totally backward, but to build something stronger, you first have to break down what's already there. The whole amazing process of muscle growth gets kicked off by creating tiny, microscopic damage deep inside your muscle fibers. Now, let's be super clear. This is not an injury like a tear or a sprain. Think of it more like a precise, controlled signal that tells your body, hey, that load was tough. We need to adapt and get stronger so we can handle it better next time. So what causes this good kind of hurt? Well, it's mainly driven by something called an eccentric contraction. And here's the wild part that most people miss. It's not really the lifting or the pushing that does most of the work. It's the controlled lowering part of the exercise. You know, when you're slowly bringing a dumbbell down during a bicep curl, your muscle is firing like crazy, but at the same time, it's being forced to lengthen. That tension during that lengthening phase, that's the key that starts this whole chain reaction. Okay, let's zoom way in, like down to the microscopic level. During that eccentric contraction, this whole cascade of events kicks off. First, the weakest links in your muscle fiber, these little engines called sarcomeres, get stretched a little too far. It's like pulling a rope from both ends. The weakest bits start to fray. That's step one. Then, step two, the pop. Those sarcomeres give way, creating tiny little tears. This damages the cell's outer wall, which leads to step three. A flood of calcium comes rushing into the cell. And that calcium, that's the distress signal. That is the emergency flare going up that tells your body's command center, we've got damage here. We need the emergency response team, stat. So this is the big mindset shift. This isn't just chaos and destruction. No, it's precise, controlled demolition. Your body is basically clearing out the old, weaker structures to make way for a bigger, stronger, more awesome replacement. You're not just breaking things, you're prepping the construction site for a serious upgrade. Okay, so the demolition is done, the distress signals are out, and now your body's internal construction crew gets the call. This, right here, is where the real magic happens. We're moving into the rebuilding phase, and it's this beautifully coordinated immune response that's designed not just to patch things up, but to overcompensate, to build back bigger and better than before. But your body doesn't just send everyone in at once. That would be chaos. It's a highly organized, phased approach. So check out this timeline. Within the first day, the first responders, these immune cells called neutrophils, show up to start clearing away the initial mess. Then, they're followed by the heavy-duty cleanup crew, the M1 macrophages, which hit their peak numbers around the 48-hour mark. And only after the site is clean and prepped do the real builders, the M2 macrophages, come in to say, all right, time to start rebuilding. And this just shows you the brilliant two-part job of this immune team. Think of it this way. The M1 macrophages, they're the cleanup crew. Their job is to be pro-inflammatory. They come in, tear down the last of the damaged bits, and haul away all the junk. Then, once their job is done, the M2 macrophages, the repair crew, arrive. Their job is anti-inflammatory. They calm everything down, and most importantly, they activate your muscle's own stem cells, called satellite cells, which are the key to actually building brand new muscle tissue. All of this, the damage, the inflammation, the cleanup, it's all building towards one thing: flipping the switch on muscle protein synthesis. This is the grand finale. This is the moment growth actually happens. It's the literal process of your body building new muscle proteins. It takes the amino acids from the food you eat and weaves them into new, stronger muscle tissue to fix those micro tears. This whole process, which we call hypertrophy, can stay elevated for a full 24 to 48 hours after your workout is over. Now, your body's construction crew is world-class, but even they can't build a skyscraper out of thin air. They need raw materials, they need energy to run the whole operation, and they need the right instructions from the foreman to get the job done right. This is where your lifestyle, what you eat, how you sleep, and your hormones becomes absolutely critical. Let's just call it the anabolic trio, the 3 things you absolutely have to give your body. First up, protein. These are the bricks and mortar, simple as that. No amino acids, no new muscle. Second, you need calories. You need enough energy to actually fuel this construction project. Building muscle takes a ton of energy. And third, and maybe the most underrated player in the game, is sleep. This is non-negotiable. Sleep is prime time for repair, when your body releases critical growth hormones and does all the deep recovery work. So during this recovery time, certain hormones and growth factors are basically acting like the project managers, shouting out instructions. A really key one is called IGFI. You can think of it like the foreman on the job site. It sends out these powerful signals that tell those satellite cells we talked about to get to work, to multiply and then merge with your existing muscle fibers, making them bigger and stronger. Without these signals, the whole rebuilding process just stops. And hey, don't just take my word for how important sleep is. Listen to what the actual researchers are saying. This study points out that bad sleep doesn't just make you tired, it directly messes with how your body uses amino acids and energy. In other words, you could be eating all the right things, but if you're not sleeping well, you're basically handicapping your body's ability to actually use those building blocks you're giving it. Okay, so you've broken down the muscle, the cleanup crew did its thing, and you've given your body the fuel it needs to rebuild. So, what happens next? Well, your body isn't just going to build things back to how they were. It adapts. It learns from the stress you just put it through, and it draws up a new, stronger blueprint so it's better prepared for next time. This brings us to one of the absolute coolest things in exercise science. It's called the repeated bout effect. It's a fancy name for a simple idea. Your body remembers. After you've recovered from that first workout that left you super sore, the very next time you do that same exercise, your body is ready for it. You'll get way less muscle damage, a lot less soreness, and a much weaker inflammatory response. Your body has literally learned its lesson. I mean, this chart just lays it out perfectly. That first workout, bout 1, that's a huge hit. Lots of damage, lots of soreness, and a big temporary drop in your strength. But just look at the response to the second workout. Damage and soreness are way down, inflammation is way milder, and you bounce back to full strength so much faster. This isn't just you getting tough. This is a real, deep physiological adaptation. Your body is getting smarter. So how does it pull this off? Well, the adaptation happens on 3 levels at once. First, neuromuscularly, your brain just gets better at firing up more muscle fibers to share the load, so no single fiber gets totally overwhelmed. Second, mechanically, your body literally reinforces the muscle with more connective tissue, kind of like adding rebar to concrete. And finally, at the cellular level, it adds more of those little sarcomere engines in a row, making the whole muscle fiber longer and way more resistant to stretch damage in the first place. So let's wrap this all up. What are the big takeaways here? First, remember that controlled damage is the trigger. That's what kicks everything off. Second, recovery is the process. Inflammation isn't a bad thing. It's your body's amazing construction project in action. Third, fuel is absolutely essential. You just can't build a house without bricks and energy. And finally, adaptation is the ultimate goal. Consistency is what teaches your body to get stronger and more resilient over time. And that brings us to one last really important thought. We focus so much on that hour we spend in the gym, on the sets, the reps, the weight, but after seeing this whole journey from demolition to rebuilding to adaptation, maybe the real question we should be asking ourselves is this: is our recovery as intentional, as focused, and as intense as our training? Because as we've just seen, the work you do in the gym, well, that's only the beginning of the story.